Hi guys, Saint here, and I'll be doing the patch 5.17 rundown. Most of the changes to the champions are pretty small, but there's a lot of them, so it'll be a pretty quick one. Azir has his base movement speed reduced by 10, which is 325, which is pretty damn slow, so you won't be able to get around the map as well. And then you also won't be able to dodge skill shots as well either, of course. But then Q, the Conquering Sands, the enemies no longer take additional damage for being hit by soldiers beyond the first one. So that means you can't just like put up like 3 soldiers and then Q into them and just like bop some kids. I think Azir will still be pretty strong, but I don't think that he'll be broken in any sense like he is now. I think that Victor's just going to kind of rise up a little bit more, and I think that Orianna and maybe some of the other control mages will be showing out, and then champions that you have seen like Yasuo and Varus and all that kind of stuff will be just played more. So I think Azir is still strong, but I think that he's just going to be overshadowed a little bit by some of the other AP mids after this. Bard, he before like people wouldn't put any points outside of 1 into the W because it costs so much mana, but now it costs 90 mana at all ranks. So I would think you'll still just like keep 1 point in it, and then maybe Magical Journey, or depending on like how the mana feels in this, maybe you'll max W second instead of Magical Journey. But they also made Magical Journey go down to a 14-second cooldown if you have points in it. So I think like you can really decide between maxing W and E now. Before it was like I'll always just max E, but I think in some lanes where you need more sustain, maybe you'll just max W. So still think Bard is like kind of a troll champion and not that good though, and I don't think these changes are going to do anything for that, but at least it gives you build options now. Darius, I thought he was like completely useless before they hotfixed him, and now I think he's actually super strong if you can get the right lane matchup, and he can actually go off really hard in team fights. Most of these are just bug fixes, but if you like go just like mentioning anything about his hotfix, like I think he's actually a pretty strong champion right now. He's actually banned in a lot of high elo games, so I think Darius is in a pretty decent spot. And all these bug fixes and like small little quality of life buffs don't really change anything about him. Draven, they just made it to where you get basically it's like an announcing thing and tell your team like, hey, he's got stacks, like give Draven the kill, and then Draven gets 2 bonus stacks of adoration if he kills 6 minions in a row without dropping a spinning axe. So if you're in the laning phase and you're just farming with your Q, you can stack your adoration stacks up way faster, and this will just allow you to cash in like even more gold and snowball even harder. I think Draven's like pretty good against Sivir and Vayne if the enemy champions don't have a lot of dive stuff, and like CC that can lock Draven up. He's actually a really good champion. So, and you actually saw him in the C9 series, and I think a couple other people have been playing him, but I think Draven's okay right now. Fizz, they gave Urchin Straight a very low AP ratio increase, so that's not that much. And then they lowered the on-hit damage for Seastone Trident by 20 at max rank, which is actually a pretty big nerf. And then they increased the ability power ratio on it. And then Chum the Waters no longer amps physical damage on Fizz's target by 20%, but it still amplifies magic damage. And like what they're really just like trying to get away from is like the W max Fizz, where you get Blade the Ruin King and Triforce. And I don't think that build's going to be very good anymore after all these nerfs. I think the only way to really play Fizz will just be the AP build. And AP top lane Fizz is like just not quite as strong as AD Fizz, just because it's a little bit easier to itemize against AP Fizz. You can just get like a Spectre's Cowl and just like not get blown up by Fizz instantly. But I think mid lane Fizz will it'll still be okay. But these are like definitely nerfs to his W. Like I don't think people will max W anymore. I think people just keep 1 point in W then max E. I think that'll be the build that everybody goes on Fizz. Gangplank. I think Gangplank's super OP right now. I think his ult's ridiculous, and his late game's ridiculous too. He also has like a pretty safe laning phase just because his W is just crazy. And then now there's a delay between casts has been increased to 0.25, so you can't just put down one barrel and put down another immediately and just like combo the barrels together to pop somebody, which I think is going to be kind of make it really hard to use Gangplank in some team fights. And then the armor penetration is now 50% instead of 60. So I think you're just gonna have to be more thoughtful about how you play Gangplank, but I still think he's gonna be super broken. Like his ult's just like it's so good. Like the ult is what makes Gangplank good. Like all this armor pen stuff and his barrels and all that, like they're good. They're like pretty good. They're nice, but his ult's like definitely what makes Gangplank broken. So still think he's a great champion. They gave Garen some like small tweaks. I don't really know why they're nerfing him. I don't think he's anywhere near as strong as any of the other champions that got reworked, and I think he has to have the right lane matchup to be useful. So they nerfed his movement speed on his Q, and then they nerfed his like overall movement speed. So I don't know. Passive bonus is now stacked twice as fast on alternate maps Eh. Right-clicking on the target while spinning should now put you in closer range to your target. That's a weird change. And then the R now does 40% of the target's missing health rather than 2.5 of the target's missing health. I don't know if this, like, I'd have to do the math on it, but I don't know if this is better or worse. I think against high health targets, it's probably going to end up being worse, but against like lower and mid health targets, it's probably like if you ultimate a tank that's missing like 2,000 or 3,000 health, I think it's gonna end up being worse. But if you're ulting like a 2k health, you know, like a carry that's missing 1,000 of their 2,000 health, I think it'll be about the same. At least just like eyeballing it. I have to do the math on it. I haven't done the math or anything like that, so. Yep. Gragas. Now the Drunken Rage does 8% at all ranks. I think this is a huge nerf to Gragas, and I don't know if Gragas is going to be seeing that much more play after this nerf. I think this is a pretty big nerf. I mean, I know it's like only 4% altogether, but I already thought that Gragas was starting to become weaker in a lot of scenarios, and he had a lot of good matchups that would play really well against him. And I think that this is just going to be the nail in the coffin, and you're not going to see Gragas played as much after this. I thought this was like a completely unwarranted nerf, and I don't know. I thought Gragas was in a good spot. Like, if you're a good Gragas player, you do good with them. If you're a bad Gragas player, you do bad with them. Like, I didn't think he was like OP or anything like that. They nerfed Janna. Now her minimum cast range when you do Q before you wind it up is 850 instead of 1100. And the bonus range while charging is now 35% increase per second. So you get more benefit out of winding up your Q instead of just quick casting the Q here. So doing a quick cast Q is you're not gonna have much range on that anymore. And then they also nerfed the ability power ratio on the ultimate by 0.3. So I honestly thought Janna was kind of OP. So I'll agree with these nerfs. I think they're definitely warranted. I think Janna's still gonna be a great champion. Like, she's still overall good. The mana cost on Jackson's Counter-Strike went down by 20. I don't think that's a big deal, to be honest. Like, he's still the exact same champion. Nothing's changed about him. Kalista, they made the W passive cooldown. It's 10 seconds instead of 6, and then it also does 2% less damage at rank 1. So, I think... I honestly don't think it's going to change that much for her laning phase. Because you honestly don't trade more than like 10 seconds half the time anyways. Like, maybe it'll change that you possibly getting off 2 W stacks in an extended trade, but I don't think it's... I think this is like less of a nerf than people think. And then the Fate's Call is now a little bit longer cooldown, so you have more of an opening where you can gank the bot lane. Like, if you go bot lane and you blow the Fate's Call and you like blow everything on the support, usually by the time you came back up and like got into the lane again to gank it again, like the Fate's Call will be up again. And this is just going to make that window a little bit longer. I still think Kalista's super strong, and yeah, still think she's going to be a great lane bully. She still has like her identity, so she's still fine. Karma, now her W has 12-second cooldown at all ranks. That's... who gives a shit? Like, the only person playing Karma is Elimination, and he loses with it. Like, Karma's not a good champion. She's like good in some scenarios, but she's like way too niche. So I don't know. I'm not feeling Karma. They made Light Binding cost 20 less mana at max rank, and now Light Binding deals 100% of his damage and root to the secondary target as well. I mean, Lux is like really great when you hit your abilities, but the problem with Lux is her cooldown on her abilities is so damn long. It's really unforgiving if you miss them. So I don't think these are the changes that are gonna make Lux like pop it up everywhere and be like the best champion ever. But I think some people will be playing her a little bit more. I've seen her as a counterpick to certain matchups, like a lot of assassins she's super good against just because her W like negates all their damage. So Maokai, he has his ultimate is now 40-second cooldown instead of 20 at max rank, which is like I think that's an okay nerf. Like, it'll hurt his wave clear and it'll make you like have to decide more when you use the ultimate in team fights, but I still think it'll be okay. Like, you have max CDR on Maokai half the time anyway, so I think Maokai will still be fine. Like, if you look, Martin was like 24-0 or something in his last 24 Maokai games, so I think if you understand how to play Maokai, he's super strong, and he's like a pretty safe champion as well, and he's really easy to play too, so I think this nerf is justified. This is a bug fix for Yi. Nocturne, now he has 500 more range at his level 1 ultimate, and he ends up having 500 more ranges, the max level ultimate. So this is just kind of like, because Nocturne's level 1 ultimate is so short, you like can't even ult down the range of the lane without them seeing you. So this is just gonna buff that a little bit. Like his level 1 ult range is like pretty much a joke. So I'm glad that they buffed this. Maybe people will be playing Nocturne a little bit more. I think he has some good matchups into like Elise and Lee Sin and things like that. So things that you can W their opening damage abilities or their opening CC abilities. So I think Nocturne is okay. And I think this buff will help him a decent amount. Base attack for Pantheon is now 0.644 instead of 0.625, which doesn't really look like that much. But it's actually a really big deal because when you're multiplying attack speed, you're multiplying it off this number. So if you're multiplying it off 0.644 or you're multiplying it off 0.625, your attack speed actually goes up by a ton. And this also includes like if you have attack speed per level just innately into the champion's kit. So I think this is actually a pretty decent buff. This is actually a revert to the nerf that they did a long time ago, I think. So yeah. And then what do we got? We got Rek'Sai, Fury of the Xerxai. No longer grants 15 bonus Fury on Rek'Sai's first strike within the 15 seconds of burrowing. So, or first 5 seconds. My bad, not 15 seconds. I think this doesn't really do too much. It'll make your E a little bit weaker, I guess. But usually, like, I don't really find a problem with generating Fury on Rek'Sai. Like, you just generate it so fast since you have the attack speed from the ultimate and like the Q wind up. Like, I don't really feel like I have a lot of Fury problems on Rek'Sai. So, nah. Shen, I think Rek'Sai will still be good, by the way. Like, this is like a minor nerf, but I think still be fine. Shen, the base health per second healing on the Vorpal Blade has been nerfed by a little bit. Most of the healing from this ability comes from your health scaling, so I don't think this is that bad of a nerf, to be honest. I think he'll still be fine. He'll still do his job. Shen's still fine. This is like no big deal at all. Tahm Kench, duration on basic attacks is now 7 seconds instead of 5, which is the same thing as Tongue Lash, so this change is doesn't do much. Then Devour enemy champion regurgitation range is now 200 instead of 100. I think this will be really good because if you spit the enemy at 100 range, it actually makes it pretty hard to like line up the Q sometimes, or to like make sure that you hit your skill shot on them. And like it'll like usually when you spit them out, they're like literally stacked right on top of where you are. So it makes it hard for people to like click them and then like make sure you get the skill shots off on them. And it's kind of annoying. And this also allows you to shoot people further into your team. So I like this buff. But I think the real buff that Tahm Kench needs is he needs 10 more base movement speed. If they gave him that, he would be an amazingly great champion for support. Vi, they made her blast shield just change the way that it ramps up, and the cooldown between how many times you can use it. I think Vi is like not that good of a champion though, and I think that this change is going to do absolutely nothing to her. These are all just like a lot of bug fixes in here, so these don't really do too much. So I guess that's the end of the patch, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed it. TLDR, Azir is weaker for sure. Bard's still the same. Darius is really strong after the hotfix. Draven the same. Fizz, no more AD Fizz. Gangplank still super strong. Garen, unjustified nerfs. Gragas probably not going to play him at all. Janna's still strong. Jax, same. Kalista still probably pretty strong. Karma, nobody plays her. Lux, a little bit stronger. Maokai, probably still the same champion, maybe weaker wave clear. Yi, whatever. Nocturne, slightly stronger, like better level 1 ult. Pretty big buff for Pantheon. You'll see more Pantheons. Rek'Sai, irrelevant nerf. Shen, irrelevant nerf. Tahm Kench, irrelevant buff. Vi doesn't do anything. And that's pretty much it for the patch. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you guys next time.